What can we learn as we examine the modernization of the workforce? Leading our panel of industry experts and thought leaders is Ellen Rain. She is an HR executive and an attorney, and she helps companies research and test methods to make workplaces more productive and fulfilling. Welcome.
Thank you.
So theme number 4 is business outcomes and results. What were we looking to find here, Ellen?
We were looking to understand the practical application of some of the ideas that had been expressed in the earlier themes and how they positively affect various companies.
Now, I know you had a diverse group of panelists. Tell us about the panel.
It was a great panel. We had people from really different backgrounds. So we had founders of companies, we had CEOs, there were heads of strategy groups, lots of people in the digital arena, and a smattering of HR folks.
And in your executive summary, you have 4 key takeaways, right?
Mm-hmm. So basically, to summarize, in some small and emerging companies, which is what the panelists talked about, there are some non-standard ways of interacting with workers that have created value for the companies and flexibility for the workers.
Key point number 1 considers the QuasiVirtual Company. What is that?
So Ed Addison, who is the thought leader who talked about this, explained that he worked in a situation where there were very few people that were actually employed by the company, and they used people as they needed them for various expertise. So he worked for a company that came up with 15 drugs in collaboration with a university, all done through the internet, through AI and cloud computing. He told us that in this work, they've already come up with 2 drugs that are about to go into clinical trial. And this was all done without owning a lab, without having full-time employees, without having office space, without needing a data center. So it was very fast, flexible, and they could take advantage of the best talent available across the country.
So in key point number 2, you're saying that companies are thriving with small actual employees. And I guess that's a key point here, right?
Right. So Bart, who is in training in HR, told us about 2 companies that I'm mentioning here that he's involved with, where the employee base is flexible. So there are only a few employees, and then expertise is farmed out. So he talked about a training company where he said that the company was in charge of creating the materials, but they were not subject matter experts. So they reached out to subject matter experts to come up with the data and the content. And what the company did was create the documentation. And then he talked about another company in the HR field where the company had the content, but not the training expertise. So they reached out to non-employee experts to actually facilitate the training. So 2 ways to leverage experts that are not employed by your company.
So what are some of the benefits of using contract and freelance employees here in key point number 3?
So there are many benefits from using contract and flexible employees. But in point number 3, this is a group of employees that are actually employed by the company with flexible working arrangements. A bank in Australia that Stephen told us about is investing in flexible schedules, and they're reaching out to individuals that otherwise might not be able to enter the workforce. So in this particular case, what this bank is getting from this arrangement is their diversity numbers are going up because they're hiring more women. They're being known as an employer of choice because they're helping out a group of people who otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to be employed. They're creating loyalty from these groups of people that they're hiring, and they're tapping into a talent pool that in a more traditional work arrangement would not be available to the bank.
Brilliant. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
So key point number 4, I'm quite interested about this, the internal free agent program. What is that?
So Wayne mentioned that at Intel, there's an internal free agent program. The way that this program works is Intel decided that they wanted to take advantage of the flexibility of being a startup, but also have the resources of a very big company behind them. So they created several models where they'll take the best and the brightest and ask them to think about creating a startup. So they had groups of employees who would pitch ideas that then Intel might fund. They also tried a program where there were employees that could be deployed to various projects wherever the need was, whatever they thought was the most impactful piece of work at the time. So what this does is it allows them to have a level of flexibility that they wouldn't have if they were just operating traditionally. And it actually might allow them to compete with some of the small and more nimble startups.
Brilliant. I love that idea too. That's really brilliant. So
Yeah,
walk us through this particular survey slide you have here.
All right, so this is a pictorial of what I've explained in the last 4 key points. But when we asked the panelists why they think that companies are pursuing alternative staffing models, they reiterated that it's to save money and be more flexible, and also to fill skill gaps. The other thing about having flex workers is you can find people to help you in areas that are not the expertise of your company. And so you can get a much broader set of skills for things that you might need to do without having to bring in a person for a long-term career.
So tell us about the 3 experts that really stood out to you on this panel, Ellen.
So these 3 gentlemen, Paolo, Bart, and Stephen, were the most vocal about the ways that they had seen a lot of these modern workforce trends being used. And I thought their ideas were all very good.
Excellent. Well, great job leading this panel. Ellen Rain, she is an HR executive and also an attorney, and she helps companies research and test methods to make workplaces more productive and fulfilling. Thanks again, Ellen.
Pleasure.